Foodborne illness laws, then and now. What is a foodborne illness? According to the Food and Drug Administration, or the FDA, a foodborne illness is commonly referred to as food poisoning or a stomach flu. There are 40 different kinds of bacteria, viruses, parasites, and molds that can occur in food both naturally and unnaturally to make people sick. The big six of the foodborne illnesses are norovirus, Salmonella typhi, Shiga toxin-producing E. coli, Shigella, hepatitis A, and non-typhoidal Salmonella. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln formed the United States Department of Agriculture, or the USDA. He appointed Charles M. Wetherell as head of the chemical division. His successor, Peter Collier, who took over in 1879, started working on food adulteration in 1880. Peter Collier's successor, Harvey M. Wiley, developed the Bureau of Chemistry in 1901. This is when the Food and Drug Administration, also known as the FDA, was born. In 1906, the very first Federal Food and Drug Act was passed. In 1938, the Pure Food and Drug Act was revised and became the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. This act eliminated the provision for a distinctive name and required that the label of a food have its common and usual name. This law had three standards. Those standards were the standards or definitions of identity, standards of quality, and standards regulating the fill of the container. In 1949, the procedures for the appraisal of the toxicity of foods was published. It lined out the steps on how to check for different toxins and chemicals in food. It was also known as a Little Black Book. In 1957, the Poultry Products Inspection Act passed. It regulated the processing and distribution of poultry products. It also forbade the buying, selling, transporting, and importing of dead, dying, or diseased poultry and products made from poultry that died other than by slaughter. It also required certain sanitary labeling and container standards to prevent the sale of adulterated or misbranded poultry products. There would be a fine or imprisonment if you failed to comply. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy Jr. created the Consumer Bill of Rights. This gave consumers four different rights: the right to be informed, the right to safety, the right to choose, and the right to be heard. In 1967, the Fair Packaging and Label Act was passed. It directed the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, and the FDA to issue regulations requiring that all consumer commodities be labeled to disclose net contents, identity of the commodity, and the name and place of the product's manufacturer, packer, or distributor. In 1970, the CDC started keeping records pertaining to foodborne illnesses. This was the genesis for data on foodborne illness outbreaks. In 1973, the United States had its first major recall. It had to remove over 75 million cans of mushrooms from stores nationwide due to botulism. Because of this outbreak, the National Botulism Surveillance System was developed. The NBSS collects reports and data from all confirmed botulism cases in the United States. The Food Safety and Quality Service was created in 1977. It performed meat and poultry grading and inspection activities. It was later renamed the Food Safety and Inspection Service in 1980. In 1996, the HACCP system was created. It was a plan to identify, evaluate, and control food safety hazards based on the following 7 principles. Conduct a hazard analysis. Determine the critical control points. Establish critical limits. Establish monitoring procedures. Establish corrective actions. Establish verification procedures. And establish record-keeping and documentation procedures. In 2000, the Global Food Safety Initiative was also created. Its primary focus is to help companies develop a global standard for food safety. They are to review the company's policies, observe and inspect these companies, and also track their progress within the Food Safety Initiative. In 2011, Barack Obama signed the Food Safety Modernization Act into law. It lets the FDA focus on preventing foodborne illness instead of just reacting to outbreaks. It also gave them a new enforcement authority to achieve higher rates of compliance and also new tools to hold imported foods to the same standards as domestic foods. In 2020, the FDA created the blueprint for a new era of smarter food safety. This included things like tech-enabled traceability, smarter tools and approaches for prevention and outbreak response, new business models and retail modernization, and food safety culture. Tech-enabled traceability is using technology to trace contaminated products rapidly and helping to remove it quickly from store shelves. Smarter tools and approaches for prevention and outbreak response include things like analyzing the root cause of contaminations, strengthening predictive analytics, state and federal mutual reliance, inspection, training, and compliance tools, early warning outbreak response, and recall modernization. The new business models and retail market modernization address new food safety vulnerabilities. They partner with food delivery companies to get education of proper food handling techniques, and it also involves getting smart kitchen equipment that is capable of monitoring time and temperature processes. Food safety culture is promoted throughout food systems. It develops an FDA social marketing plan, also gets influencers on board with the social marketing plan. It also develops and promotes a smarter food safety consumer education program.